I'm Mandy Yarkich from Creative Matters, and you're listening to Creative Matters on Air, where I have conversations with new and established artists from around New Zealand. I love to listen to artists' stories and learn about their creative process, and maybe you do too, which is why I've made this podcast, to inspire, inform and educate. I hope you can take away something positive and encouraging from each of these amazing stories to help you on your own creative journey. Today I'm talking to Vanessa Fong. Vanessa is a young Tāmaki Makaurau Auckland artist who gained a fine arts degree at 20 years old and has worked in art galleries and art education since then. She is now 27 and celebrating 1 year in her own business, selling her intricately handmade clay earrings through her Dewdrops brand, informed by her fine art practice in sculpture and installation and her love of painting. Vanessa started making earrings during the first COVID lockdown in 2020 as a creative hobby and suddenly found herself obsessed with polymer clay. Her website and first collection was launched in spring 2020, and she received so much encouraging support, firstly from friends and family, and then from further afield, and she hasn't looked back. A year ago, Vanessa never imagined she would be stocking her creations in gallery shops, promoting herself and her brand, running workshops, managing a creative business, creating lookbooks and newsletters to customers, and selling her creations to people all over New Zealand. Vanessa's story of her creative practice, process and business will be especially fascinating for young art students and people interested in starting a creative business, as well, of course, for creatives who love a good story and want to feel inspired. You can see her beautiful earrings on our blog, creativematters.co.nz, and also on her website, dewdrops.co.nz. It's level 3 lockdown time in Auckland, so today I'm calling Vanessa. Welcome to Creative Matters, Vanessa.
Hi, Mandy. Thank you for having me.
Hi, it's so good to see you. And we haven't seen each other for a while. We've known each other for a few years. I met you first when you came for an interview to work for Creative Matters as an art educator.
Yeah, that was a couple of years ago now.
Yeah, and you're amazing to work with. Unfortunately, you are now focusing on your business and we don't have you on the team. But, it's so exciting for me to see your amazing journey with your business. And, you're doing so well.
Oh, thank you.
Very cool. So how have you been, Vanessa?
I have been pretty good. I've been very busy during lockdown, mostly making and designing new earrings for Christmas. I think it'll be probably my busiest time of year. So, I've been mostly in the studio this whole time. But it's been hard. It's been hard during lockdown, and I'm sure it has been for everyone. Yeah,
it's a difficult time. So Auckland has been in level 3 lockdown for nearly 8 weeks, isn't it?
Yeah.
So it has been tricky. So how do you find that for you and your practice? Do you manage to kind of keep getting creative, or does it put a bit of a stop to your amazing creativity?
I think that even when I'm feeling uninspired, I always try and find usually things on the internet, or it could be just from playing in the studio, to find ways to be creative again and to be inspired, because I know it's hard when you're working on your own and you spend a lot of time on your own and you don't always have that second opinion, from people to let you know if things are going well or not.
Yeah, so, totally. I get that. Absolutely. And, you are a real inspiration, I think, especially for younger people, because, you're only 27 and you have already achieved so much in your life. And you have this amazing business, which you're celebrating, 1 year, your first year in business, this month, isn't it? So I think your story is going to be really interesting for, high school students and for people in their 20s, and also for other creative people, just the the journey that you've taken really to get to the point that you're at now. So I'm really looking forward to hearing your story. So can we start right at the beginning? Where were you born, and can you tell us something about your childhood?
Yeah. So I was born in Auckland and I was raised in Pukekohe, which is south of Auckland. And my family owned a market gardening business. So both my parents were vegetable growers. And so, yeah, I grew up kind of not very creative in terms of like my family weren't very creative, but I kind of found art and drawing when I was a bit older as a child. And mostly through books, I think. Like my mum would take me to the library and I'd get books out on crafts and origami and drawing, and kind of found art making in that way as a young kid. And it wasn't until I went to high school and I started painting that I really fell in love with art and creating. So yeah, it's been a bit of a journey, I think.
Well, that's so great that you discovered it in high school. Yeah. So what did you do in high school with your art? Did you go right through to year 13?
I went up until year 12. So I actually left school in year 12. I applied for Whitecliff. So I went to uni at Whitecliff, and I got accepted in year 12. So I ended up leaving school and going straight into uni, which was really nice.
Yeah. That's
Yeah.
amazing. That's so young, really, isn't it?
Yeah, like my parents weren't too happy about it. Choosing art as a career was, I guess they were a bit uncertain about where it would take me, especially with creative arts and finding a job afterwards.
Yeah, it's very common, isn't it?
Yeah. So I think
Parents worrying about their children when they leave school.
Absolutely, especially leaving school early and doing it as well.
Yeah. So you did you at that stage just know what you wanted to do?
Yeah, especially during year 11 and year 12 in high school. I started painting a lot, and I spent a lot of my lunch times, even at school, painting. And I had a very supportive and amazing art teacher at the time who she did her master's through Whitecliff. So that's how I found out about it. And I had a couple of other friends who also applied for Whitecliff a year early too. So it was me and two other friends who ended up going there. And yeah, so I absolutely really loved painting and thought I would be a painter for sort of the rest of my life at that point. But
really?
It's interesting how things change, especially now.
So were you thinking, go to uni, learn about painting, become a painter?
Yes, yeah, absolutely. And I didn't know anything about, like working in sculpture and installation at the time. And I very much discovered that more so when I got to art school. So I haven't really come back to painting since.
Wow, that's really interesting.
Yeah, it's weird.
So, tell us about your time at uni. How did you, what did you develop and how did you get into sculpture in the end?
So I got more into sculpture in my last 2 years of uni, mostly because the first 2 years are more about experimenting and working in different mediums. And so it wasn't until my third year I started working a lot with found objects. And I started photographing found objects and making sculptural assemblages and working in sort of more abandoned areas and photographing in those kinds of spaces. So that ended up developing into more of a video project as well that I ended up doing. And I was very much influenced by my husband's parents, who have this crazy house with all these things, and it was kind of the perfect place for me to make sculptural works from. They're kind of, I guess, hoarders in a way. So I ended up having a lot of materials to work from in art school. So
how amazing! Yeah. What a cool thing to bring objects from your whānau. That's really great. And so what kind of thing did they have? What sort of objects?
It was like old TVs, old rugs, like just buckets around the house were filled with water and things growing in them, and things that had been left there for so many years became really interesting for me to photograph and take things into the studio as well, and seeing everyday objects as sculptures, and then being able to take them out of the studio and back into the everyday. I really was interested in that transition from object to art.
Love it. And how do you think you kind of went down that road and left your painting behind?
Well, I feel like through sculpture and photography, I very much use the same kind of painting skills in my work, especially with things like with composition and colors. I very much kind of use that in my sculptural practice, and even in what I'm doing now with making earrings and photography with that. I feel like that kind of comes across. So I feel like I'm still kind of painting in a way, but just, in different mediums.
Yeah, I love that. That's really interesting. And I guess, your clay work, which we'll get onto a bit later, is quite painterly, isn't it?
It is, yeah. So it's a lot of like illustrating with clay. So it kind of feels like I'm drawing and also kind of painting all at the same time. So
yeah, for sure. That's very cool. And so, what did you do? Coming to the end of your university days, what was the plan?
I was actually very confused and a bit unsure about what I wanted to do after I left uni. In terms of career, my art practice, and also finding a job were like three things that I was, kind of struggling with. And I kind of took a little bit of a break after I graduated from just from art making in general to find a job. It's pretty hard to find a job after you leave art school, and getting like work experience. And so I ended up getting a casual job as a gallery assistant in Pukekohe. There's an art gallery there called the Franklin Art Centre, and that was my first job in sort of the art scene. And so I worked there for about 2 years, and then eventually got a job working at the Auckland Art Gallery, also as a gallery assistant. So
which is so good. I mean, it's a lovely side interest, I guess, or side job to your interest in art, isn't it? But obviously without the art making side of things.
Yeah, it kind of made sense as well, like from doing an art degree to go into an art gallery to work as well.
Yeah.
And so it was a really great opportunity to learn about how the art world kind of works as well, and how galleries operate too.
That's right.
So, yeah.
And what do you enjoy about your work at the Auckland Art Gallery?
I think it's working with the people, and because I worked with kids a lot at the gallery, and I did a lot of like workshops and weekend art making activities with families, and that was probably my favorite part of working at the gallery was being able to interact with young people. And just seeing all the artworks too every day was also an amazing thing.
And as you know, I used to work at Auckland Art Gallery myself as an art educator. I don't think we knew each other then, did we? Or you weren't working there at that time?
I wasn't. No.
And the thing I used to love the most about working there was the staff meetings with the curators, and they'd talk about the shows that were coming and talk about how they'd gone to Vienna to talk with an artist about a potential show, and then they'd show a slideshow of all their beautiful artworks and talk about the artist. And for me, I just found that so fascinating, and I guess my sort of knowledge of art, especially New Zealand art, just increased so much. So it's a great job in that respect.
Yeah, definitely gives you a lot of opportunities to see like how shows are put together as well, and all the behind the scenes that goes on in an art gallery. You don't really see that unless you've worked in one. Yeah,
and it's an incredible place to be for a creative person because it's so inspirational.
It is, and you meet a lot of artists too. It's a great sort of place for connections.
And I found it helped me with my own art practice, I think, just getting ideas from looking at work every day while I was at work. And
Yeah,
it's a great job, I think, for an artist, as a part-time job, just because you're kind of in that world. And
absolutely.
it can be good for your practice, I think.
Yeah. I think you can also, you can still have an art practice and work in a gallery at the same time, and it kind of works well together.
Yeah,
Yeah.
totally. I think it does. So you're still working at the Auckland Art Gallery
I'm
now?
not,
Oh,
no.
you
So
left.
I've left, I left at the end of July. And so I've been working on my business on my own since.
Wow. And you left
Yeah,
Creative Matters around that
I
time?
did. Yeah.
Yeah. So that was kind of leaping off the cliff, wasn't it?
I threw myself into the deep end with that one. And then all of a sudden we went into lockdown. And yeah, I don't think we were expecting that to happen. But I think it's been really good for me. Like I kind of wanted to put myself through a bit of that struggle to be able to figure out what I wanted to do and where I wanted to take my business.
And
Yeah.
sometimes I think you need to have that. You need to kind of jump off the cliff so you can devote yourself and your headspace and your thinking to what you're creating in business.
Yeah, absolutely. It can be hard to sort of manage multiple jobs and projects all at the same time.
Yeah,
Yeah,
definitely.
yeah,
And it takes away from the making and the thinking. And sometimes you've just got to devote yourself to it, I found. Yeah. So,
absolutely.
Vanessa, can you explain to people who don't know your work what your earrings business is all about? And that's called Dewdrops.
Yeah, yeah,
And yeah, can you describe the kind of work that you make?
yeah. So I make statement earrings mostly, and I create my works by rolling very fine, small pieces of clay and creating designs. So I'm kind of illustrating with the clay and drawing with the clay. I tend to do a lot of florals at the moment. I've done a lot of florals and just little illustrations and designs. And then I embed them. So I roll the designs into the clay, and I've got little like cutters for different shapes depending on the kind of earring that I want to make and the design. And then I bake them in the oven. If you've worked with polymer clay, it's something that you can very much do at home. And so my studio is also at home as well. And so when I've baked them, I do a lot of sanding and buffing to get them really smooth. And then I start to assemble them and turn them into earrings. So
Yeah, well, it's an
it's quite a
amazing
process.
process. Yeah, and I've watched you very closely through Facebook and Instagram, and the way that you actually work is absolutely, to me, incredibly fastidious, and the work that you make is so delicate, or especially the designs that you actually incorporate into the earrings, is yeah, it's incredibly fiddly. And then the way that you produce a number of earrings that are all exactly the same, the whole process to me is very exact.
Yes.
Which I admire because I don't think I could do that myself. I wouldn't have the patience.
It's a lot
No.
of tiny work, like the smallest works that I've ever made. It's such a small canvas to work on to begin with. And then creating little designs on top of that has been, I'm always working very closely to my table. I feel like, I'm like
Yeah.
leaning down, I'm hunching over just to get these tiny little flowers.
It's a good thing that you're young and your eyes haven't started deteriorating. But you can see Vanessa's work on her blog post, which is on creativematters.co.nz. That's a good place to just have a look and see what you're actually making. And we'll include the links for your Facebook and Instagram and pages, and also your website.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah. Something that you kind of need to see in person, I feel like.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
It is that kind of work. I mean, it is very unique. So, how did you actually come about making these earrings and getting the idea and working with polymer clay? How did that happen?
So I started working with polymer clay last year during the first lockdown that we went into. And I actually had the polymer clay that I bought the clay years ago, about 5 years ago, and it had been sitting in a closet for so long. And I had went through a short polymer clay phase a few years back, and then only really brought it back during lockdown when I had a bit more time on my hands. And when I first started working with it, I started making little pots, so like very miniature little pots for plants. And then eventually I came across a few different earring businesses on Instagram and saw that people had a full-on business, making earrings, and were making a living from it. And so I got very inspired to do something similar and come out with my own collection. But of course, I didn't know, like at the time, how it would all come together. And I slowly started, coming up with a logo and a website and things like that. And I kind of wasn't sure at first how it would go. Like I thought it might be something for like an art audience and for friends, initially. But coming into it a year later, I feel like it's expanded a lot more than I thought it would, and it's reached a wider audience than I thought it would have.
Yeah, and you've done such an amazing job to make that happen. So when you actually started, were you just making for fun?
Yes, absolutely.
You weren't actually thinking, I need a new small business.
No.
I'm going to try earrings.
I had absolutely no experience in business or in jewellery making. So I kind of relied on my fine art sort of background to help me with the creativity and the making part of things. And then all the business stuff I had to very much learn from scratch on my own. So yeah.
And we'll talk about the business and how you run it in a second. So just going back to your practice. So do you see the earrings as your art practice?
I think I see it as a sort of like a branch out from my art practice, if that makes sense. So it's kind of not directly, but I definitely put in a lot of I guess all the elements from my sort of core art practice in sculpture and photography, and I take that and I put that into my earrings. And I very much see my earrings as being like tiny sculptures or like tiny paintings in a way.
So why don't you think of it as part of your practice so much? I mean, you obviously see it as part of the practice, but
yeah.
I mean, you don't have time to be making any other work at the moment, I presume.
Yeah, no. I think it's because I feel like my earrings very much sit in between being like an artwork, but also being a product as well. And they kind of sit in this weird in-between space. When you're making for like retail, it's kind of different to when you make for an art gallery or for an exhibition. And I think that's why I kind of see it as kind of a separate thing from my fine art practice. But I very much enjoy it just as much, I think,
Yeah. And you can see, where it's come from, the connection to your art practice and your love of painting. I really can see the connections. Yeah. But it's interesting, isn't it, how we sort of define art practice and and the sort of the way it combines with business, because artists are selling their work as a business, which is kind of similar to what you're doing in a way.
Yeah, it is kind of. I can kind of see how that would relate. I think with what I'm doing with my with making earrings is that with my art practice, I think I very much think about myself and in my own development. And then when I make earrings, I think a lot about other people and who they could be for, because they're going, they're for sale. My earrings are for sale, and I often think about who would wear them, or when I'm making, I often think about what someone might look like, or their personality and things like that. It's quite different, I think.
Yeah, I can see that. And so, do you feel like you're actually making stuff that for you that you love, that you can also sort of connect with other people out there, Or are you kind of coming away slightly sometimes from your first choice in design just purely for the commercial reasons?
I think I definitely make things for myself that I love. Like I wouldn't put anything out there that I don't love, you know. But I often do try and make designs in colors that I think would suit a range of different people. Um, but yeah, I definitely make for myself first, I think, because I feel
Which
like
is
that's
good.
where the passion comes from, you know.
Exactly.
If
Yeah.
you're making for other people for a commercial aspect, it's not as fun, you know.
No, and it's very hard to maintain, I'd say.
Exactly. Yeah.
The inspiration and the momentum in a way.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And so you're obviously making more than one of the same earring. Could you see yourself ever, making a range for something like an art gallery that maybe one-off pieces or something like that is slightly different to the other more commercial side?
I initially started out with one-offs, like just limited edition one-off pieces, just to test design as well, just to see what people would like. And only more recently, I've started making multiples of the same design. But doing the limited edition works were definitely a bit more fun, I think, and being able to create one-off pieces just for, a person, or it could be, for a gallery. So it kind of, for my own store, I've started to make more multiple designs, but I think being able to make the sort of more one-off limited edition pieces are a little bit more exciting in a way, and being able to, design or be inspired by an artist, or,
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And it feels like there's a lot of potential out there for what you could come up with designs, especially for something that's a little bit different that, you could see it at an art gallery. Yeah, which is nice in a way that you've got that potential and there's that sort of variety where you can kind of have different categories, I guess.
Yeah, there's definitely a lot of options, I think, when it comes to earrings. I know, like, I get a lot of people who ask me if I'm going to start making other forms of jewellery, like necklaces and stuff. But I think earrings are actually quite broad. Like, you can actually do so much with just with different kinds of statement earrings alone, I think.
Yeah, totally. I love earrings. Yeah.
I know.
It's my favorite form of jewelry, I think.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
Just because it sits so close to your face, and it can really brighten your whole outfit or your mood even as well.
Yeah. Well, you can have something really plain on and then amazing earrings, and it just sort of makes the outfit. Yeah.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah, I do too. I actually own a pair of Vanessa's earrings, which I treasure. I think they were from one of your first collections.
It was, yeah.
Which is exciting, and I always get comments when I wear them.
Oh, amazing.
Yeah.
That's so lovely to hear.
Yeah, so it's nice. So I guess it would be interesting for our listeners just for you to go through the actual process from beginning to end on how you actually set yourself up and work through making a pair of earrings.
Yeah, so my studio process.
Yeah.
So I start off with blocks of polymer clay. So it comes in often quite bright colors, and I mix the colors together to kind of often tone down shades. And I work with a pasta machine to roll out the clay and to condition it. Polymer clay does come, when it comes in a pack, it's quite hard still, and so it needs the warmth of your hands to be able to roll it out and to make it more workable. And so I often start by I do a lot of research in terms of colors actually to start with. So I look up color palettes quite a lot, and just to see what colors work well together. It's kind of like painting as well. You look at colors that are complementary, or certain color families that work together. And so I often start with a color palette in mind, and then I start rolling out the clay. And then I have all the colors for the details, so I keep that quite separate to the main slab. that I work with. And so I mix everything by hand, so all the colours.
Wow. So you can actually take a couple of colours and mix them so they create another flat colour.
Yes, yeah. So the pasta machine does most of the work in terms of that. Before I had the pasta machine, I was doing it all by hand and mixing it, but I found having a pasta machine to be like the most helpful thing to have.
And how do you actually do you put it one on top of the other, the colours, and then put it through the pasta machine?
Yeah, so I make it very flat so it fits, and you can adjust the different levels on the pasta machine depending on how thick or thin that you want it. And then by the time you roll it through and you do that multiple times, the colours start to blend together very well. Or you can kind of marble them together as well if you want kind of swirly patterns. And so yeah, I end up using that a lot to create my colours, and then adjusting them as well, adjusting the colours and the tones to work with. And then I start to kind of design and roll out very thin pieces of clay to create the details, things like flower petals or stems, and then I embed it with a roller. So I use an acrylic roller to push the designs in so it lays flat.
And you use tweezers to place your tiny pieces.
I use like a scalpel actually, to kind of help me to place everything. So it's very intricate work. It's very small.
It really is very tiny. And for people listening, again, it's hard to visualize, but the petal could be. I mean, it's minute.
So small. yeah.
It's almost just a few pinheads. I mean, you are actually working with tiny, tiny shapes.
I know. It's crazy.
I know. I have so much admiration for you doing that and having the patience. It's just insane.
I think patience is the most important thing actually in all of this. Sometimes when you're rolling up the clay, it needs to be exact in terms of placement and where it goes. So having a lot of patience for that is very important.
Very important. And so you just back to you've placed your designs, and then when you're doing multiple works, how do you organize that?
So I usually make like a larger slab to work from, and I have little clay cutters that I use to get the outer shape of the earrings. And so I will do a little imprint of each little cutter shape onto the slab, and then I'll work from there. So I'll usually start with one finished earring design, and then I'll copy it for all the other ones so that they look as similar as possible.
Yeah, and they really do look incredibly similar. I don't know how you do it.
I think I tend to find all the differences and when I'm making, although it looks like the same from afar, I notice when things are a little bit off.
Yeah, I bet you do. But why, Vanessa, do you want each one to be exactly the same?
Well, I think when you're when I first started making earrings, and I was making one-off pieces, I often found from chatting to friends and people that when one sold out, they would kind of miss out on that one pair. And so I started making multiple so that they'd be a bit more accessible. And that's something that I want to continue on in my business, is making it more accessible to people and being able to choose designs and having them be available. Yeah.
Which is hard, isn't it, when you're, the only person doing the making. So once you've actually, placed your designs and rolled them into the shapes, then what happens after that?
So I use the little my clay cutters to cut them all out individually. And then there'll normally be a statement piece and then also a stud piece on the top of the earrings to make up, a singular earring. And so I start to embed the studs, so the stud posts, into the clay. So typically people would glue them on the back, I've seen. But I like to embed them just so that they're very sturdy and they're quite invisible. And so I will bake the stud posts with the clay in between them, And then once they're all baked and they come out of the oven, I start to sand them with a Dremel. So I've got a handheld sander that I like to use. And so I sand every surface of the earring. I do the top, I do the sides, I do all the like little corners and things like that with a Dremel first, and then I move on to hand sanding after that. So I go through kind of multiple stages of sanding with different grits of sandpaper, so that by the end it's very smooth to touch.
And they are so smooth and beautiful to touch. I think that's a real feature of your earrings. Actually, it's so soft, and it's, you know, all the edges are softened, and it feels, it's kind of velvety matte, isn't it, almost?
Yeah, I think jewellery should be nice to touch as well as to wear. And I think it adds that little bit of like extra quality when they've been sanded down, very finely as well.
Yeah, it really does. So after the sanding process, what happens?
I also polish them afterwards. So I go back to the Dremel after that, and I've got like different attachments as well. And so I end up buffing them all out as well. So they're super shiny by that stage. And then I start to assemble them. So I've got like pliers and jump rings, and I put it together. And then I usually photograph them after that. So there's a bit of a process before I get to the packaging, stage. I usually take photos, or I'm usually recording through the process of making as well. So little things like that, so that I've got content for social media and things like that, you know. So
you're really good at that, and we'll touch on that a bit more when we start talking about your business. But that is an important part of the process, and giving people a sneak peek into your process and practice is really cool, I think. Yeah, and a real feature of what you do. And it's such an interesting process, and it's really generous actually to share what you do, and share that sort of personal process and approach that you have.
Yeah, I think people tend to value what you do more when they actually see how much time and effort that you put into it. And so I kind of like to share that, the little behind the scenes clips of me making, just to show that I actually do embed everything and I do sand everything myself.
And it does, I guess it adds value, doesn't it, to the product when you can see the work and time that's gone into it. And your, I did initially think it was that the florals and the botanicals were painted in before I got to understand your process.
Yeah, most people do actually. Most people think they've been like hand painted.
And that
on
really
top.
has that effect, doesn't it? Which is really quite a cool thing.
Yeah, I think that embedding them kind of keeps the design within, like, in the clay, so it kind of lasts longer too. I wasn't sure if paint would kind of come off over time. And so it makes it, they last a lot longer, especially, when they've been embedded into the clay.
And I think embedding is just something a bit different, isn't it, in a way?
It is, yeah. I haven't seen it too much in terms of like polymer clay earrings. So I think when you start a business, you kind of have to find all the things that make your business unique and what you do kind of special. And promoting that, I think, for people to see the value in what you do.
Absolutely, yeah. So just the last thing really to talk about with your earrings is that you have different collections, don't you?
Yes, yeah.
So can you tell us about the kind of collections that you have and what inspires those?
Yeah, so I've come out with so many collections since I first started. At the beginning, I was kind of coming out with a collection a month, which kind of got a bit too much, I found, in terms of work. So now I've sort of cut it back to about every 3 or 4 months, depending on the seasons. I tend to work with seasons a lot, I think, and I often like to plan ahead. Plan ahead for the next 3 or 6 months and think about what people are wearing and what season it's going to be, and just kind of what's trending and what I see other people wearing, and so with my collections, I have done a lot of florals and botanicals in the past, and I think people kind of know me for the sort of floral designs.
And maybe that comes back from your childhood with your sort of connection to growing.
Yeah, maybe.
You never know.
I'm very inspired by nature and just my friends. I think just seeing what my friends are wearing. In terms of like jewellery, I find that now more than ever when I go out and I see people that I am looking at their earrings and just seeing what they're wearing. And so I very much started off with designing collections I kind of had a younger audience in mind, people who were around my age that I was kind of designing for. And then eventually found that there are a lot more people of different ages who actually enjoy them too. And so I've started branching out more towards, like not just statement pieces, but going more towards like little studs and things like that eventually, and hoop earrings and things like that. So
that'd be interesting.
Yeah, so I really want to branch out a bit more in terms of styles for the website and being able to make it more accessible and have lots of options to choose from, just like how you would pick out a different outfit, like an outfit for the day. You can change up your earrings too. And I really like the idea of that.
Yeah, and I like that your collections kind of are still available. It doesn't sort of sell out like I think it used to at the beginning, didn't it?
Yeah.
So it's nice now that you can reproduce those, so they're always, people can choose from all of the collections that you've made.
Yeah.
So you've got collections like the abstract floral and the Colour Me collection, which was very painterly, wasn't it? Where you,
yes.
Yeah, and I actually watched a video of yours where you were like literally painting the clay onto the clay.
Yes.
Yeah. So can you tell us about that? I love that one.
It was kind of a new technique that I wanted to try at the time, and I have always wanted to do a painting inspired collection from the beginning, and kind of didn't really know where to start. But a friend of mine, Andrea, who is also an artist, she's an abstract painter. I collaborated with her on that collection, and so she created the paintings. So she made the paintings especially for me to work with. And then I worked from the paintings themselves and created the colour palette and sort of the gestural sort of hand, the painterly marks were all done in clay. So I did a lot of experimenting months before that and trying to get this technique to look right and to look like paint. And so it was sort of a mixture of me, like testing out how clay can be painted on top of a clay surface without it looking weird. I think clay on top of clay can kind of look a bit rough sometimes. So I kind of wanted to be smooth, like paint. And so I really had to condition and warm the clay up before I started to paint it, just so it was easier to work with. And then I rolled it through the pasta machine to smooth everything out so that it would look a bit more like a painterly surface on top. And I actually ended up experimenting a lot with resin at the time, and because Andrea's paintings were oil paintings, I kind of wanted to get that gloss and that sheen that you see in the oils. And so I experimented with laying resin on top of them, a few different kinds of resins. And in the end, it kind of didn't work out how I wanted it to. And so I ended up leaving it quite natural and without anything on top. But all those little kind of stages, all those little steps that you do behind the scenes that people don't end up seeing. It's a bit of work, but it's fun to kind of play around with it too.
And you are very experimental, aren't you? I mean, you're that's a huge part of your practice. That's why in a way I kind of think of this as an art practice. It's not sometimes people just whip up earrings. I feel like it's so much more than that for you. It's it's really sort of connecting to your love of painting, connecting to your art practice in the past, and that's all coming together in this very sort of artistic, beautiful way. And yes, it's earrings, but to me, they're almost like mini artworks, really.
Yeah, I think it surprises me that I'm kind of doing this because I never thought that I would be working in the realm of jewelry making. I think that's why I kind of separated it for a long time and thought about it as something different. But I agree, like very much in a way that I am using all those different elements and skills and painting and sculpture and even things like photography and shooting my products and things like that.
Exactly.
It does come across into what I'm doing now.
Yeah, and I think it's a very holistic practice and a really sort of interesting creative process that you work through. And so when you, I mean, you've also done collections that have like New Zealand flora and sort of botanicals, and also inspired by artists who paint botanicals. Is that right?
Yeah. So I did a collection for the Auckland Art Gallery shop. And it was an exclusive collection for them, inspired by Fanny Osborne, who was a botanical illustrator. And so she painted in watercolors these really beautiful native flowers. And so the Auckland Art Gallery asked if I wanted to sort of make a collection specifically for them. And there was a Fanny Osborne artwork that was being featured in one of the exhibitions. And so I spent a bit of time looking through her work and Fanny Osborne's work and her practice, and coming out with a few different designs inspired by her works. It was really hard to get them exact, and they weren't supposed to be exact either, but because her work's very detailed, I tried to get as much detail as I could in the earrings and make them look like the flowers that they were supposed to look like, you know. And so, and so those are available in the shop now, which is
Isn't
cool.
that great?
Yeah.
And how wonderful to be asked by the Auckland Art Gallery, New Zealand's biggest art gallery.
It's very cool
to make some work for the shop. I mean, that's great.
I ended up making quite a few. I had to make the same of different style, of 4 different styles, and so I ended up spending a couple of months just making for the shop.
Wow,
yeah,
that's great. And that must be quite hard in a way when you've got your other part of the business, and because it's just you making, then it would be quite tricky, I guess.
Yeah, it was a lot of late nights and a lot of weekends working on that, but I love it though.
Yeah, so good. And when you actually start, I mean, you talked about the clay process, but you obviously do lots of drawings, don't you, to start with?
I do, yep. So everything is designed on paper first, and then I kind of experiment with colors and kind of. I sometimes end up changing the design a little bit from what I initially draw, depending on how, because you can't kind of determine how it's going to look in clay all the time. And so I usually start with the drawings and then end up finishing with, a prototype in clay before I start to kind of mass produce a little bit more.
And how many do you actually make when you mass produce?
I tend to work in pretty small numbers, even though it's, so I can probably make about 8 pairs in a day, which doesn't sound like very much, but it's like 16 if you think about it. When you think about a pair, it'll be like 16 clay tiles, and then plus the little stud on the top is also another extra piece. So it kind of adds up in terms of a day's work, even though it doesn't sound like you're making very much. But all the sanding and everything that comes after that, actually, it takes a bit of time.
So you do try to go through that whole process from beginning to end, within a day or two, and have the finished products ready to photograph and put out there.
Sometimes, yeah. If not, then it always ends up carrying over to the next day, I find. Yeah.
Oh, that's so good. Wow, it's a very interesting process. So is there anything else you'd like to say about your process?
I don't know.
We've probably covered it, haven't we?
Yeah,
really?
yeah. It does involve a lot of detail, I think, with with the work that I do. But I've also seen some like very beautiful works that are that are like sort of left natural as well. So you don't necessarily have to sand them all down, but it's just something that I've come into the routine of doing, and kind of stuck with a certain procedure for my, for my works and for my product, and sticking to that.
Yeah, and I think that works well, that people expect that softness and that velvety texture and that precision, and it's almost like your signature, and then you can kind of explore different ideas within that, really, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Very cool. So I'm just going on to your small business. As I said earlier, you're celebrating 1 year in business, which is a huge achievement, because that first year in business, as I know, is not easy. And like you said, in July you stopped your other part-time jobs and devoted yourself to your business. So well done. That is massive.
Thank you.
I really admire what you've done. I've been loving following your journey. So Dewdrops is the name of the business. How did you come up with that?
So it took me months to actually come up with a name. Like finding a business name is so hard, and trying to find a name that's not taken as well, especially on, you have to find like the domain, and then also, your Instagram and social media to make sure that there aren't too many people with the same name. But I initially came up with Dewdrops. I kind of thought about the word drops as in like in relation to earrings, like having something dangling from your ears, like little drops. But I also thought about dewdrops in terms of forming in the morning, in the early hours of the morning, and kind of signaling a new day. And so I thought that was a kind of a cute name as well to come up with for a little business.
Yeah,
So,
I like it.
Yeah, it's kind of me taking it day by day.
Yeah, I like that. And it feels, I don't know, the idea of dewdrops is very delicate. It's a delicate thing and beautifully formed, which kind of fits, I think, with what you're making.
Yeah, and I always thought that I might do an earring shape as a dewdrop as well. So I thought, it'd be a cool shape to do.
Yeah. So how did you actually get started with the business? I mean, there's obviously a lot of learning that you've been through this first year. Yes. But how did you turn it from being a hobby in lockdown to something that was actually making money and was looking more like a business?
I definitely, me and my husband work together a lot, because he's also working on his own too, and he's got his own business in digital marketing. And so he's been running his business for a little bit over a year now too. And so we are kind of in the same boat in trying to get our own small businesses going. And so he had a lot of experience just from working for himself. And so I got a lot of sort of advice from him in terms of how to start and where to start. But I feel like you can find a lot online these days about how to start a business too, And so I did a lot of research in terms of, all the things from like design to packaging, things you need for like social media and creating content, and how to make a website and all those little things, and even things like email marketing and how to promote your product, because I think it's one thing to make a product, but it's another thing to actually sell it. So all those little things are they all end up coming together in terms of creating a brand and a business for yourself,
Yeah, and I think you're really good. I think your brand is quite strong, and the thing that really struck me at the beginning was the beautiful way you packaged your work. So it just kind of, to me, it really expressed the person you are as well. I think the work does, and also the packaging. It's just so sort of beautifully put together and delicate, and it's quite feminine. And you've really thought about the colors, and everything about it just is quite cohesive, I think. So can you describe the actual packaging, because it's very gorgeous?
So the packaging, it comes in on linen card. So it's been packaged on card, but also in a box as well. And so the box is like this nice white, cream coloured cardboard, and it's also, the earrings also come in a tissue paper overlay as well. So when you open the box, you kind of have to lift the tissue paper off it to see the earrings, and so it's like kind of a it's a really nice little. I think it'd be cool as a gift. That's what I initially thought. It's like a gift box.
It really is.
But
And
each
how did
one
you
comes.
choose that tissue? It's so pretty. It's floral.
Yeah,
Is it always the same tissue?
It's the same tissue. It comes like in a very big sheet, and then I cut it down into smaller pieces. But the tissue is like it's a Monet floral inspired tissue paper. And so I thought it was quite fitting for the brand in terms of like something painterly and bright and colourful. And so, yeah, it kind of all came together really nicely. Surprisingly, I spent kind of months looking through different options in terms of like how to package the product and how it would send as well, and in terms of how it would send in the mail and things like that. All those little things are like super important in terms of how your customer ends up receiving their products.
That's right. And you have the actual earrings poked through the card.
I do. Yeah. So I hand poke all of them into the card and then cut all the tissue. And
I'm sure you measure. Do you measure exactly where the dots, where the holes need to go?
I do. I have like templates for it, and so
amazing.
It's very like precise, but it makes me feel good when everything's put together nicely and there's it's all ready to go, ready for someone to receive.
Yeah, you do a very good job with that, Vanessa.
Thank you.
So with social media, I know some artists find it hard, but I think you're really good at that. So you have an Instagram, Dewdrops underscore clay,
yeah,
Instagram page and Facebook page. So can you tell us about that? I know you do quite a lot of, like you said, videos of your process, all sorts of parts of the process, really. And tell us about how you manage social media.
In the beginning, I found social media really difficult, actually, just because I wasn't overly active on social media before I started Dewdrops. And so I had to do a lot of research in terms of, what platforms to post on, just experimenting with like how many times you're posting a week or the different types of content as well and what people are engaging with. And what's really great about social media is that you can often see like the statistics and things like that of like who's interacting and what they're more likely to interact with and who your audience is and things like that. So I try and stay as organized as I can in terms of social media and plan ahead. At least, a couple of weeks ahead, I try and kind of write the post up or have a picture in mind. And so a lot of work is done ahead of time. I find that's probably the best way for me to work and takes some of the stress away as well, so that I can focus more on the studio and what's happening in the studio as well. I think social media is just one of those things that are, it's constantly evolving and changing, and you kind of have to try and keep up with it constantly,
do. And the reels on Instagram are a bit more of a thing and seem to reach more people, don't they, than stories at the moment.
Yeah.
So are you putting your videos on reels or stories?
I have, I've started to do more reels just because you can get more sort of organic reach with those, and stories. People love stories. I think just being able to, as opposed to a post that you can kind of scroll through, the story's kind of there that they can just click on it and view it, and you can track your engagement with that sort of thing too, which is great. Yeah.
And you have kind of put yourself out, I've noticed just in the last few months. I'm seeing more of Vanessa, which is good. And that, takes a bit of courage, doesn't it? But, how do you find sort of promoting yourself and putting yourself out there as part of your brand?
I feel like I was kind of forced to put myself out there a bit more because of lockdown and not being able to have like friends to photograph during that time. It kind of meant that I could only sort of have myself to work with in terms of, taking photos and stuff. So it's weird, like I'm like very shy in terms of putting myself out there. But slowly started putting, more pictures of myself and more of, content that involves me, other than just my hands working.
Yeah. I think it can be hard, but I think it is really effective. I mean, I notice myself if I have a crazy photo of me doing something mad, then the engagement is more than my usual, other things that I post.
Yeah.
And it's also, from my point of view, watching your business, I think it's nice. I already knew you, but it's nice to see your face. And because it's such an intimate process that you're doing with the work, it seems to make sense to have you showing the work.
Mm-hmm.
And also because I think your product suits you and it's so sort of you that it's nice actually to see you wearing the work. And just, for people to be able to connect to you as the maker is nice.
Yeah, I was a bit shy to do it at first, but I think putting myself out there, I think that people enjoy seeing a face in relation to the brand and what you do as well. And so I think that for people to see that you make the earrings as well as do everything else, it puts a bit more value into it, I think.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
And so with your business, you do a lot of different things, like you have special offers and you sort of do big new release moments.
Yes.
You have lookbooks and you photograph your products, like you said, beautifully. And then you also do workshops.
Yes.
So, you've actually got a lot going on, Vanessa, haven't you, in your business?
I do. Yeah, I've only done a couple of workshops. I was supposed to do one a couple months ago, but because of lockdown, it made it very difficult. But I'm hoping to start more things like workshops next year, hopefully, if we're able to. And I don't know, just interact with people a lot more, because I think that's sort of the important part of, the most important part is actually the people that are engaging with what you do, is to actually meet them in real life and share my knowledge if I can. I think
that's lovely and very generous, I'd say. So just lastly about your business, the selling of your work. I mean, you have your website and you have a shop on your website.
Yes.
And how else do you sell your work?
It's also available in some art gallery shops as well. And so I've made a collection for the Auckland Art Gallery and Gavette Brewster, as well as like the Howick Historical Village as well, and Franklin Art Centre also stock them. So it's really nice to still have that connection with art galleries, and even if it's just in a shop. But I think if they were to be in a shop, I think gallery shops are kind of the coolest place to have them in.
So do I. Absolutely. Yeah. And how did you go about making that happen?
So I think it was more from when I worked at the Auckland Art Gallery, just having friends, and just I think it's about like who which sounds really weird, but having friends who also worked there and then ended up going off to other art galleries to work, and just making those little connections. It kind of starts off small, and then your audience and those connections start to grow a bit bigger.
And once you can say to a retailer that you're selling at another retail, I think that helps you. It helps you to gain momentum, doesn't it? Really,
that's true. Yeah,
it's still brave of you to go out there and approach people and talk to people about your work, and you've been very proactive in making that kind of thing happen, I think.
I try to. Yeah, I've been very sort of determined to make this work, especially doing this as like my main job now. You really have to be organized and be motivated, I find, to make things happen as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you've got to motivate yourself, which is the hardest part really of having a small business.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Nobody sort of keeping you in shape. You've just got to do it yourself. So where do you see your business heading in the future, do you think?
I think I would, well, I sort of have a long-term goal, I guess, long-term dream. I kind of wanted to come up with other products, and so not just jewellery, but I kind of wanted to come out with like uh, notebooks and like cards and other things that people could buy. I kind of saw my website as something that, you know, people could shop for earrings, but maybe shop for other things as well in case maybe they didn't have their ears pierced, or maybe other forms of jewellery I could kind of incorporate into selling as well. But I kind of want to do more workshops too. I think that'd be a lot of fun, and markets too. I haven't done a market yet, so
that would be great.
There are a few other things I want to do and want to make happen, but I always find it takes a lot longer than you think that it will, you know, to make all those little things happen. So we'll see how it goes. But I definitely want to keep making more and do more workshops for sure.
And you've already achieved so much in your first year of business, and they say it takes 5 years for a small business to really kind of start firing. So if you can make it for 5 years, you're going well. So another 4 years, I'm sure you're gonna be awesome.
I'd love to do it.
Yeah, and I can see I can see this business going on for a long time, and your beautiful work that you're making. So what do you think you're most proud of with your business and the work that you're making?
I think I am most proud of sort of just the fact that I think in the beginning it was really hard for me to do everything on my own, and I was sort of constantly asking like questions and for advice. But I feel like, you know, a year on, I'm able to do all the website stuff on my own and all the newsletters and run it quite independently. And I think that's sort of the main thing that I'm proud of. And also getting into shops, I think. I never thought I'd be stocking in shops. That wasn't sort of part of the plan. But it's been very cool to see them like in a shop, like in a cabinet, you know. Yeah, I think it's been really cool.
Oh, it's so cool. Yeah, that's very, very, it's a good achievement, you know. And it's exciting in a way that there's so much, I can see that there's so much more that you can explore and develop. You know, it's not like you're kind of going to saturate your ideas or your approaches. I feel like there's so much that you can achieve, and with your sort of amazing work ethic and determination, I'm sure you will achieve it.
I hope so.
Yeah, I think so. And just finally, Vanessa, do you have any advice for people starting out on their creative journey or on their sort of new creative venture?
To be honest, I think it's best to always to try it, even if you know, like I had a lot of doubts to begin with, and I think it's better that you at least try and make it happen than not. And I guess you'd never know if you didn't, and to keep making if that's what you love doing, if it's a creative business, because you'll learn along the way, and it doesn't have to be perfect to begin with. If you're launching something or creating something, I think we focus a lot on that perfection to begin with, you know. And I think it's more important that you grow from that and to see something, you know, to see something really happen and, you know, be successful. Yeah. Just go for it, basically.
Yeah, do it.
Yeah.
Oh, well, thank you, Vanessa. It's been lovely to see you, and so nice to hear your story. And I really look forward to continuing to follow all the amazing work that you're doing. And I can't wait to see where you end up with this amazing business.
Oh, thank you so much. And thank you for having me, Mandy. It's been lovely to chat to you and catch up.
Yeah, lovely to chat to you too. Thanks, Vanessa.